Hello, hello, hello. Hello, hello, hello. So here are the stones. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and a small one, 7. Now, most of these stones came from my dad, with the exception, I think, of this one that's in here and this small one here. And my dad has long since passed on, but he loved woodwork and he would use these stones to keep his chisels and various tools sharp. But that would have also extended to things like sickles, garden tools, pretty much anything. I believe he made this box for this stone. This one is in the original cardboard. This one was just like that, I believe. This one is also in the original box. This one is mine, actually. I forgot to mention that. I bought this at a boot sale recently and ruined it by trying to clean something I probably shouldn't have done, so I'm going to try to sort that one out. And then there's this combination one. Now, I've never done this before. I really don't know exactly how I'm going to approach it. I've obviously, like many of you watching this, I've been on YouTube looking at different ways of cleaning and preparing and flattening and all the rest of it. So I've taken what I can from the YouTube videos, and I'm probably going to do this my own way, as I tend to do. The first thing I just wanted to show you was the condition of the stones. Now this one is well and truly cupped here, and particularly on this side it's really cupped down here. So this has seen a lot of use and it's never been flattened by the looks of it, or not recently anyway. This one, another one of my dad's, even worse actually. I don't know whether you can see how that is. That's really quite badly worn out. I suspect that was used for gardening tools like lawnmower blades and things like that. I believe I'll leave those two and use them for other things, not necessarily plain blades and chisels and things like that. So what am I left with? That was that one. Put that over there. I'm left with this one, which is reasonably flat. I think I can salvage that. This one, which was mine, is reasonably flat. It hasn't been used a great deal, so I think I can flatten that and salvage that one. This one is dished here in the centre, but again it's not too bad, so I could probably salvage that. This is alright. I just like to clean it and just you know, just give it a little flattening just to make sure that it's okay. It's a very coarse stone and I suspect it was quite cheap, so it probably has never been very well flattened to begin with, but it did come in a sort of plastic case, which is useful. And then this one, again, massively dipped. I might leave that for another time. So we'll start with these 3. No, that's 4, Matthew. We'll start with these 4. And what I wanted to say is this one here is a Carborundum stone. But what it said on the back of the box was actually quite interesting. It said, when the stone is used dry, it will produce an extremely sharp edge on your tools. It says silicone carbide stones, which is what this must be, Carborundum, are very fast cutting, and whilst the thin clear oil is usually sufficient, cutting may be tempered by soaking the stone in hot petroleum jelly. Well, I've never heard anybody on YouTube talk about soaking stones in hot petroleum jelly. So that's something. And then it says aloxite stones. I thought that might be a brand name, but I'm not sure. Aloxite stones are oil filled after manufacture and require only a thin clear oil on the surface. Should either type of stone become clogged, they may be cleaned with, and this is what I thought was really interesting, petrol, paraffin or ammonia. And this is made by the Carborundum Company Limited, Manchester, England, and it gives a postcode. I thought, okay, I've got petrol, and then I thought, well, that's probably going to really smell. If you've ever filled your lawnmower and got petrol on your hands, they stink for days, so I thought maybe I won't go with the petrol. Obviously ammonia is very toxic, so I won't use ammonia. And paraffin which is basically kerosene. So it's a fairly refined product, and I suspect out of the three of them, that's the one that would be the most suitable for use, at least the least toxic. So I went out and I purchased some Bartolene premium paraffin. I remember when you used to buy this in a metal can. You take your metal can to the hardware store and they'd fill a big gallon jug from a huge tank and then pour it into your can, and this was used in those days for paraffin heaters, which I remember well. Not so common today. Anyway, I digress. So this is what I'm going to use to clean the stones. People on YouTube talk about using Dawn, which is an American washing up liquid. They talk about using isopropanol and various other things. But these are oil stones. Is the thing I forgot to mention. Every one of these has come in contact with oil, and once they've been used with oil, you can't suddenly turn it into a water stone. So I'm stuck with these as oil stones at this point. I thought I'd clean them up, get them back into service, and then at that point buy a water stone and sort of compare the two. Right, I'm going to start by pouring some of this into here. Oh, that smells. This is odd. I wouldn't say that was like paraffin. Paraffin's normally pink, and this seems quite thick. But anyway, I won't argue with the manufacturers. Let's flip them over. I can hear air sort of oozing out of these. So I'm just giving my light scrub to start with. This is a very soft bristle brush. It's a wire brush, but it's quite soft. Seems to be some paint on this. Alright, so what I'll do is I'll leave these to soak for a little bit. Come back. And I'll give them another scrub. So I left them for a few minutes. I'll come back. I've been giving them a gentle scrub in a circular motion. I've noticed they seem to have cleaned up quite well. The colour's come back. This green is quite vibrant now. Some of the black marks have come off. Turn it over. Just keep working on it gently. I'm not trying to attack it too much with the brush. I don't want it to score it or damage it in any way. It's unlikely it would. I suspect they're more robust than that. But this one's got a weird stain on the side, sort of brown stain. It's almost like rust, which it may be. And that doesn't want to come off, but I don't think it matters. It's not on the top. I've noticed when you put the paraffin on the top and you leave it for a little bit, it seems to draw into the stone. Well, I think that's a good thing. I think as long as it's getting into the stone, it's cleaning out all the old oil. And when they dry out, which I assume they, oops, look at that, which I assume they will do, because the paraffin will evaporate. Then it will leave a sort of more porous stone which will be ready to absorb new oil, and when it's flattened it will probably be very much like new. That's a theory. We'll see. So, results. Very clean. You can see some compacted marks here. I don't know what that is or why it is. It's like it's crushed into the stone. I'm assuming that will come out when I start to flatten it. This one much cleaner. I should have weighed them. That probably would have been a good idea. I should have weighed them first and then seen if they were heavier when they came out. And if they were, then that would tell me they are holding onto the paraffin inside the stone. But apart from that, I can't be sure. Some of it has come out here, you can see. so it probably is leaking paraffin back out. Much cleaner. And this one, the bottom came up quite clean. This is sort of stained into it. I don't think there's much there, but it's a staining. And then this here, that's the paraffin, and you can see that it's quite black. There's not very much there actually. I'm sure I poured more into the little tank than that, but I guess that may be another indication of the paraffin staying in the stone. But I don't know for sure. I haven't been scientific enough to prove that. Because I've got this piece of plate glass. It's two pieces bonded together, and it's about 11 millimeters. It's just under half an inch. And onto this I'm going to double stick tape this piece of 100 grit. I'm going to stick that onto it so it's nice and flat. And I'm going to start off flattening the stones with that.
As I said earlier at the beginning of the video, this is the first time I've done this, so it's obviously a learning curve, but we'll see how it goes.
Take my gloves off.
We're going to be more difficult to get the small bit off. There we go, that's not too bad.
So put it roughly in the middle. Okay, it's nice and flat. So the first thing I'm going to do is to pour a little bit of the paraffin on the paper. To capful. And get started. Seems to be working on the ends more than the centre at the moment. I've got to say, it's quite hard to see what's happening. I'm really not sure where it's cutting at the moment. We'll carry on there. Oh, okay. Seems to be this area and this area because this is still dry. So that sort of makes sense. It was higher at those ends, quite a bit. It's almost about 2 millimeters. Well, I've been doing this for a while. I've just cleaned the sandpaper. I'm getting there. It's not completely flat, but I've got the edges down. It's still sitting on both ends, and there's a bit of a scallop in the centre, so at that point everything has to come down in order to get it completely flat all the way along. So it's quite a job. I mean, this is a pretty tough stone. As I'm doing it, I can feel the sandpaper wearing out. But having said that, it's still cutting. The glass wants to slide, so it would be ideal to put this glass in a frame of some sort. In some way that it could be attached to the bench in some way so it doesn't move. So I've got it pretty flat now. I'm holding this up to the light with the ruler on it. I don't see any light coming through. So I'm satisfied that this is flat. So now I'm going to try the other side. Pretty much the same thing as you'd expect. In the centre the sandpaper isn't contacting. It's just around the outside. Although this is a softer stone, so I won't rub too much. I'll just check it and see if it's alright. Yeah, it's the same, it's dished in the centre. So I'll keep going. I noticed that the paraffin has got underneath the paper and started to soften the glue, so the paper's lifting up around the edges. And as you do this, it sort of pushes the slurry to the edge, so it's easier to wipe off. It ends up on the glass, and you can just wipe it off. Which is a good thing. Turn it round from time to time, and to go in all directions. And this one, the small one, I'm starting on the soft side, and it's moving pretty quickly. You can see the red slurry coming off. Quite a scallop in the centre of this one. Let's put a little bit more. See how that is now. I can see that all around here it's been removed, but this whole area here, although it's getting wet, is not actually, it's not removing anything just yet. Anyway, I'll carry on. Let's switch to a different paper, see if that makes any difference at all. You can see there the paint marks that were splattered on there that haven't been removed. So we're not touching that yet. Anyway, we're going with an 80 grit. Let's see if it does anything. Not much. These stones are quite hard. Yeah, it's going to require a hell of a lot of sanding to take that out. I'll just see what happens on the other side. I haven't done anything to this side yet. I think this is even harder than this, to be honest, but let's see what happens. So in my attempt to discover all things, I put this down, which is, I believe it's an aluminium oxide 40 grit, and I'm going to see if that will cut this more quickly. I can see it scratching the surface quite a bit, but probably not that deep. So I'll try this. I don't know whether it's picking it up or not, but there's that darker ring in the centre is where the divot is in the stone, so I need to keep scraping until that's been removed in order to get a flat stone. So it's taking too long with the 80 grit. The 100 grit wasn't cutting it, the 80 grit was moving it a bit faster. I did most of it with the 80 grit, but there's still quite a bit of a dip there, so I'm going to go ahead with this and then switch back to the 80, and then I'll do all of them again on a finer grit. So I've had a bit of a switch around. What I'm doing here is I'm using 40 grit, 80 grit and 120. I found this green was way too aggressive. Really strong sandpaper, but was digging into the stone quite a bit. So I've gone with a slightly less aggressive paper. I just stuck them down on the glass. So I'm going to give it a try. Start off with the 40. I'm using Windex or window lean or some sort of glass cleaner rather than the paraffin. I'm just seeing how that works. It seems pretty good. It kind of lubricates pretty well. I feel it cutting. Still scratching just a little, but I had some big scratches from the green paper, so that's a lot better. So I'm going to work through the grits. I'm going to go from that over to 80. Yeah, that looks pretty good. I'm just going to sort of almost polish it up with the light grit here, the 120. And I think that's it. I might just do the back of this with 120. Ah, that's a damn shame. Dug the corner in. I have to avoid that for 2 minutes so I get this done, and then I have to change the paper. Yeah, well, that's beautiful. So I'm really happy with this. I don't know whether you can see it. I've got a nice flat finish. It's looking good. I guess I almost feel like I want to go and wash them, and I might. I'm not going to use the 40 on the other stones. I just want to get them down a bit, just to a nicer finish. That feels good. The larger stone lays nice and flat on the glass. I can feel it making contact. Okay, that feels good. Yeah, that's nice. I'll do the other side as well. Let's go over to this one. That Windex smells a lot better than the paraffin. Just going to do this one now. Yeah, that looks good. I don't know that the paper's going to last much longer. Well, here we are everyone, it's the following morning. The memory card got full up and I kept talking to you, but the camera had shut down. So I just thought I'd do a quick summary of my efforts yesterday. These are the 4 stones that I attempted to flatten and improve. The cleaning came up very well. All got a nice surface now, including this green one is lovely and flat. The rough side is good and flat. Very, very nice. This one was quite problematic because it was well dished in the center, but I kept at it, and this is now good and flat on both sides. This one, well, I didn't have as much success with this. I did manage to clean the marks off. That was good, they all came off. The stone itself is an unusual shape. It's slightly cut in the center, so the center is lifted and it's resting on the 2 ends, and on the other side it's kind of curved this way, which is a bit weird. I can only assume that that's the way it came out of the factory. It was manufactured that way. This is so hard that although I tried, I can see I've got this much. It's kind of removed it down to about here and just about this much on this side, and then there's some that's been removed here. I can sort of see the difference. I figured it's not that bad, and I'm probably not going to use it that much. If I do, it will probably just be for knocking down metal quickly, because this is, as I said, very, very coarse, and so at that point I could always flatten things on one of these stones afterwards, which is what I would do. I cleaned them all with a washing up liquid, concentrated. I squeezed it on, gave it a good scrub under hot water from the tap, and that got rid of most of it. They still smell of paraffin, as you would imagine. So that's it. I would say it was a success. I've got 4 stones there that I can use in the workshop. They'll keep me going for a while. I didn't use any specific sandpaper. I just used a sandpaper that I have on a roll. I'm not even sure what kind it is. I actually buy this for using for sanding wood, but it's pretty good stuff. I believe it's made by Silverline. It's nothing fancy, but it does work. I think it's within the reach of anyone to do this with a piece of glass, or if you can't get a piece of glass, get yourself a chipboard door or particle board door from a cabinet or something like that, which is usually very flat. You could check it with a straight edge. My arm was slightly inconvenienced this morning when I woke up. I could feel it was aching slightly from all the rubbing. So I say a big success, and I'm glad I did it, and I hope you learned something. And I recommend getting on with it, but be prepared to work hard and keep at it for as long as it takes. Hope you've enjoyed it. Please subscribe, and look forward to seeing you during the next video.